Hello everyone, I hope that you're having a really nice day. So this week we are going to be talking about something super interesting and fun. Um, Different stories. So fables, folk tales, myths, and legends. So every culture around the world actually has stories that go with their culture, sometimes explaining different parts of life, explaining why the sun and moon rise, why the earth is full of water, um, explanations of gods and very famous historical people, stories that explain different lessons. So we're going to get into each one of these and explain what they are. So you guys are today actually going to watch a video of this woman. It's called The Leopard Woman. And she's a famous storyteller where she presents different oracle traditions that have been around for hundreds of years. And she does a really cool spin on it with clapping. And you can really just notice throughout your life, the better you are at storytelling, the better you are at getting people to listen to you. So all of these are different stories that different cultures have told, sometimes only through oral tradition, but sometimes they are written down. So let's look at some of these different words and what they mean and what they are. So I'm sure you've heard of fables. If you have not, I'm sure you have heard some fables. So fables are short tales that usually have animals. So in this fable, it is the story of the hare and the tortoise. The animals are usually given human-like qualities to give or deliver a message. So in this story, it is slow and steady wins the race. You don't need to rush everything in life. I'm actually going to have you watch that video. They usually give a specific moral or lesson. So pretty much like explaining something that you should know in your life, but doing it through a story that includes usually animals. We have folk tales. So all countries have folk tales. Sometimes people call them folklore. Sometimes people also include fairy tales in this section of them or subsect of stories. They often stem from oral tradition passed down by folks who told them. So that's why it's called a folk tale. They have a lesson at the end. They usually feature people as their main character with a twist. So the leopard woman story, those are real people. Not sure if they were actually real people in history, but they definitely have different qualities that show that they are people. The woman in the story has a baby. They're hunters. They're nomadic. It sets it up for a very realistic story, but the people are not actually real people. And then usually these stories have somewhat of a twist. So something is like definitely maybe couldn't happen, but some people believe that these stories actually did happen. And then we have myths. So all cultures have different mythology, different stories from every culture that explain natural or social phenomena and unanswered questions. So these different myths include origin and creation stories, different stories about the sun and the moon, why the sun and the moon are in the sky, usually putting or giving different creatures that maybe definitely would not have personified traits, like snakes can't talk, but sometimes in myths we have a snake talking, or a tree talking, or the moon and sun talking to one another. Different myths have like the whole ocean being in a bag, and really realistic story, but things that actually might not be true. Myths tell of gods, ghosts, heroes, and events that people believe are real, or at one point were real. So in Thailand, there are a lot of myths. So some people do believe that these stories are real. Some people do definitely believe in ghost stories and this supernatural idea of a way of explaining things. And I like to believe that myths are definitely real in some ways. I think it makes life more interesting. It gives people an easier way to describe everyday things that have happened, or things that happened way back when in history. So it's a traditional story which embodies a belief regarding some fact or phenomenon or experience, and in which often the force of nature and the souls are personified. Meaning, just as I said earlier about the snake having a face, being able to talk, the clouds being or resembling a person, such as a god, a goddess, a hero. So those are myths. So I hope that you can think about some different myths, so or legends as well. So here we also have legends. So legends are also sometimes passed down by written tradition or oral tradition, meaning word of mouth. Legends are focused around a cultural hero rather than a supernatural god or goddess. So legends are usually about someone or something that was real, like a person that kind of has historical fact in it. Like the whole story is real, but maybe the person that they created is not real. But this person serves as a good message, or does a very awesome and very exaggerated thing. They are believed to have some historical truth, and both myths and legends deal with well-known cultural figures. So there's lots of different legends and mythology about our creation story, different stories that have to do with ancient Greece, and the different stories of like why we are the way that we are today. So these are all different myths and legends. So let's think. So now that I have you here, I would like you guys to find a myth or a legend in Thai culture. So actually a legend that I learned about Thai culture is the legend of the miraculous monk. And I actually just wanted to find the story for you. Yeah, so this is a little story. And is this story real? Is this monk a real person? Yes. Are all of the things that happened in his life story real? No one can actually prove it. But some people believe it is real. It is something that people take for faith. So this is Pra Luang Por Toy. Don't know how to say it, but people call him the miraculous monk. And so when he was a child, he was actually laying out in a hammock, and he had, let me show you a picture of him actually. So this is him. So he was actually laying out in a hammock, and his mother and father walked up, and they saw a snake was actually wrapped around him. And they thought that the snake was going to kill him. So they started to realize the snake was different, that maybe it was some sort of deity or some sort of thing to show a message. And after that, where'd it go? And after that, so the snake constricted him, but it did not bite him. And at that point, it spit out a pearl or some sort of shining, glistening crystal. Some people say it was colorful. Some people say it was just clear like a diamond. And the snake spit it out onto the monk's chest or the young baby. And later on, you have different people saying that there was a rich guy and he made the young baby's parents give him the crystal. He bought it from them. And they said no, they didn't want to sell it, but he took it. And it was said that he got really, really bad luck and that a lot of members of his family died, and that he eventually realized it was because he took the crystal or pearl without asking. So he gave it back. And just a lot of things that happened, bad luck, because of taking this crystal, this sacred gift almost. And so one day, he left his home and he decided to become a monk, to teach and pass on his message. And he was out on his way to become a monk in a boat, which was then caught. They were caught into a huge storm. And the storm almost took out the boat. And the people knew the legend of this monk and the things that people said about him. And they were all planning on considering throwing him overboard. He knew this was going to happen, so he performed 2 miracles. And these miracles, they are said to be true. No one has proof of them. But he actually calmed the sea. So he stopped the storm, and he put his foot outside of the boat and drew a circle. And he said, "You guys can have this water. This is fresh drinking water." The boat was also out of fresh drinking water. And he pointed there, and someone took a drink out of that circle. And it was fresh water, like he said. And people also say that after this experience, he had a very miraculous reputation or legend about him. And that later in life he solved a puzzle where there was 500 words coming from Vietnam. And they said, if you solve this puzzle with this mantra on it, that you can have these 7 boats made out of gold. And he actually sat there and he realized that 7 of the words were missing from the puzzle. And he said, where are the 7 words? And he knew because of something inside him. So people wear different statues of this monk for protection, and people have this story as a legend. So this is a story. I don't know if it's true or not. No one does. But that is considered to be a legend. So, so for homework today, not really homework, in classwork, I would like you to watch this video, Jane Blake, The Leopard Woman. So let's go over it.
Upon a time, a man walked across the African plains with his wife. The man carried his spear and a bow and arrow across his back.
So you guys are going to watch this video and you're going to tell me, out of the different categories of stories that we went over today, you're going to let me know or tell me if it is a fable, folktale, myth, legend, maybe ghost tale. And we also have fairy tales, which usually include like a mythical creature such as a fairy, a mermaid, a vampire, a werewolf. Those are fairy tales. But yeah, well, thanks for listening. And I would like you to watch that video, and also find a Thai fable, folktale, myth, or legend, and I'm gonna show you a worksheet and send that to you, and then you guys can paraphrase it and tell me the story on your worksheet. So yeah, thank you so much, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'm really happy that we are learning about folktales and fables, because I feel like they add a little bit of brightness to life and explain things in a very obscure way, rather than just being so realistic. Like, this is the way it happened. It's more like very, sometimes unnatural, and just cool. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you guys soon.